In the heart of Hausaland, where the golden savanna stretched endlessly beneath a blazing sun, there stood the proud kingdom of Zazzau. Its walls rose high, its markets overflowed with goods from distant lands, and its people thrived under the rule of King Nikita. One fateful year, in 1533, a child was born in the royal palace. On the day of her naming, the palace was alive with sound and color. Drummers beat their talking drums, griots flowed with goods from distant lands, and its people thrived under the rule of King Nikita. And dancers leapt in circles. The scent of incense curled into the air as the priest lifted the child high for all to see. This child, the griots proclaimed, is chosen by destiny. She shall shake kingdoms, and her name shall never be forgotten. They named her Amina. From the moment of her birth, whispers followed her. Some called her blessed, others feared what her destiny might bring. But all agreed that this child was no ordinary daughter of Zazzau. Her father, King Nikita, beamed with pride as he held her close, his heavy golden robes shining in the torchlight. The queen mother, elegant in deep indigo, whispered prayers of protection over her baby. Yet behind her eyes lingered both pride and caution. For even then, in her earliest days, the elders felt the winds of change stirring. As the drums continued to pound, as the griots continued to chant, the people rejoiced. None knew what trials or triumphs the child would one day bring. But they felt it in their bones. The birth of Amina was not just a family blessing, it was the dawn of a legend. As Amina grew from infancy into childhood, it became clear she was unlike the other girls of Zazzau. While her sister, Zaria, spent her days playing with dolls woven from cloth, Amina sought out the boys in the palace courtyards. There, armed with nothing but wooden sticks, she challenged them to duels. At first they laughed. "How can a girl hope to fight us?" they jeered. But when the match began, laughter turned to silence. Amina's eyes burned with focus, her movements quick and precise. Again and again she struck, her stick clattering against theirs until they dropped their weapons. By the time the dust had settled, it was the boys who lay panting on the ground, and Amina who stood tall, her chest heaving with pride. The palace guards watched from the sidelines, exchanging whispers. "This one fights like a lion cub," one murmured. "Give her time, and she will fight like the lion itself." Word of her skill spread. Soon, boys twice her size refused to spar with her. But Amina would not stop. When no one dared to face her, she trained alone. She carved spears from branches and hurled them at tree trunks until her arms ached. She sprinted across the courtyards, racing the wind. And in secret, she slipped into the stables, where the great war horses of Zazzau were kept. The first time she mounted one, the animal bucked and reared, but Amina clung on tight. Her laughter rang across the fields as the horse galloped beneath her. By the end of that day, the stable master shook his head in disbelief. "This child rides as if born in the saddle," he said. Amina's mother often found her daughter returning home with scraped knees and dust in her hair. "Amina," she scolded gently, "a princess should not spend her days fighting like a soldier." But Amina only smiled. "Perhaps, Mama, I am not meant to be only a princess. Perhaps I am meant to be something more." And so her training continued. In the courtyards, in the fields, on horseback, and in secret corners of the palace. With each passing season, Amina grew stronger, faster, and hungrier for the life that awaited her. A life not of silence, but of battle. Not of waiting, but of destiny. As Amina entered her teenage years, her bond with the horse grew into legend. Every dawn, before the palace stirred, she slipped quietly to the stables. The stallions of Zazzau were tall, powerful creatures, bred for war, feared by enemies, respected by warriors. Yet when Amina approached, the fiercest horse would bow its head. She whispered to them, her voice calm, her hand steady. One stallion in particular captured her spirit, a sleek black horse with eyes like fire. Others called him stubborn, untamable. But Amina only smiled. "He is not wild," she said. "He is waiting for someone who rides like the wind." From that day forward, the black stallion became her companion. Across the golden plains they moved as one. The horses' hooves thundered like war drums. Dust rose behind them like storm clouds. The wind whipped through Amina's braids as she leaned low, spear tucked under her arm. Villagers who saw her ride whispered in awe, "That is no ordinary princess. That is a warrior born." The elders frowned at her daring. Some shook their heads, muttering that a young woman should be at the loom, not the battlefield. But Amina cared little for whispers. Every ride brought her closer to the life she dreamed of, a life beyond the palace walls, a life where she would lead, not follow. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Amina rode her stallion to the highest hill overlooking Zazzau. The city walls gleamed in the fading light, strong and unbroken. Beyond them stretched endless plains, dotted with distant villages and rival kingdoms. Amina raised her spear and whispered to herself, "One day, all of this will know my name." The horse reared, silhouetted against the red sky, as if agreeing with her vow. From that day forward, she was not just a princess who trained with sticks. She was a horsewoman, a warrior in spirit, and a figure whispered about in every courtyard. The young men who once mocked her now watched in uneasy silence. The guards began to follow her progress with respect. And deep within the palace walls, the griots sharpened their voices, preparing new songs. For the girl who rode like the wind was destined to ride into history itself. Life in the palace was a world of contrasts. Marble courtyards glistened with fountains. Carved doors opened into gardens of color, hibiscus and bougainvillea, alive with birdsong. It was a place of luxury and peace. In this world, two sisters grew together, Amina and Zaria. Though they shared the same royal blood, their hearts beat to different rhythms. Zaria, the younger, was gentle and graceful. She spent her days among the palace gardens, humming songs while weaving garlands of flowers. She spoke often of love, of one day marrying a prince who would cherish her. Amina was her opposite. While Zaria's hands held flowers, Amina's hands held steel. While Zaria dreamed of romance, Amina dreamed of war. Yet despite their differences, they were bound by love. In the evenings, they would sit together beneath the palace arches, talking until the stars filled the sky. Zaria teased her sister, "Amina, must you always think of horses and swords? There is more to life than battle." Amina laughed, her eyes sharp as flame. "And you, Zaria, must you always think of love? There is more to life than marriage." The two sisters embraced, their laughter echoing through the palace halls. But deep down, each knew the other's heart was set. Zaria's path would be soft and tender, while Amina's path was sharp and unyielding. And though neither knew it yet, the choices of these sisters would shape not only their lives, but the fate of Zazzau itself. One night, under a sky heavy with stars, the royal family invited a priestess to bless the young princesses. She was an old woman, wrapped in indigo robes, cowrie shells clinking as she walked. Her eyes were milky white, blind to the world, yet her gaze seemed to pierce the soul. She touched Zaria's forehead first. "This one," she said softly, "will live in peace, her heart full of love." Then she placed her hand on Amina's brow. For a long moment she was silent. The fire beside her hissed and cracked, sparks flying upward. Finally, the priestess spoke. "This one will change the fate of Zazzau. She is chosen for war.
She will build walls of stone and carve a name into history that no man can erase. The courtiers gasped. Some cheered. Others muttered nervously. The Queen Mother's hands trembled as she pulled Amina close. Child, power can lift you high, but it can also burn you whole. Amina, still young, only smiled. Then let me be the flame. The priestess's prophecy hung heavy in the air. A shadow and a promise that would follow Amina all her life. Years passed, and fate struck. King Nikita, beloved ruler of Zazzau, fell ill and died. The palace wept, and the throne stood empty. The council of nobles gathered in the great hall, their robes heavy with jewels, their turbans high. They argued long into the night. The throne must pass to a man, one declared. But the blood of kings flows in Amina's veins, said another. She is a woman. Women rule hearths, not kingdoms, sneered a third. At last, Amina herself entered the hall. She stood tall, her spear gleaming in the torchlight. Her voice rang clear. If courage crowns a ruler, then I am worthy. If wisdom makes a king, then I shall reign. For I am the daughter of Zazzau, and I fear no man. Her words silenced the hall. Behind her, the royal guards struck their spears upon the stone floor in thunderous rhythm. Amina! Amina! They shouted. The people joined them. The nobles could not resist the tide. And so, Amina was crowned Queen of Zazzau. But her path would not be easy. For even as the crown touched her head, enemies in shadow whispered of her downfall. No sooner had Amina taken the throne than her kingdom was tested. A neighboring state, believing Zazzau weak under a woman's rule, sent raiders across the border. Amina did not hesitate. She donned her bronze armor, fastened her crimson cloak, and mounted her black stallion. "Warriors of Zazzau," she cried, "will you let them mock your queen? Or will you ride with me to victory?" A roar answered her. The gates opened. The army thundered out. On the battlefield, Amina's brilliance shone. She ordered an ambush from the hills, cutting off the enemy's retreat. Arrows rained down, drums pounded, spears clashed. By nightfall, the raiders lay broken. That evening, Amina swore before her army, "No man shall own me. My heart belongs only to Zazzau." Her soldiers knelt, chanting her name. A queen had proven herself not by bloodline, but by battle. Victory breeds envy, and envy breeds treachery. One night, while the moon hung full, shadows slipped into the palace. Assassins crept into Amina's chamber, blades glinting. But Amina was no ordinary queen. She woke as they approached, her instincts sharp as ever. Rolling from her bed, she seized her sword. The clash was fierce. Steel rang against steel, the chamber lit by moonlight. Amina fought with fury, striking down her attackers one by one until the floor was slick with silence. When it was done, she stood, breath heavy, sword dripping. She gazed at the lifeless bodies and whispered, "So this is the price of the crown." From that night on, no one doubted her resolve. Even in the heart of danger, Queen Amina stood unbroken. After years of triumph, Zazzau rejoiced. In the palace square, torches blazed and drums thundered. Dancers spun in colorful cloth. Griots sang praises of their queen. Amina sat upon a golden throne, her crimson robe flowing, her spear resting across her lap. She watched as her people celebrated not only her victories, but their own strength as a united kingdom. "These walls we build," she told her generals beside her, "will speak of us long after we are gone." The griots' voices soared. "Amina, the warrior queen! Amina, fire of Zazzau!" Children ran through the square chanting her name. Women sang with pride. Men pounded drums with fierce joy. That night, the city glowed with firelight and hope. Amina had given her people not only protection, but pride. She was not simply their ruler. She was their legend, alive before their eyes. But peace does not last forever. Word spread of Amina's growing power, and rival kings trembled. One, a warlord clad in black iron, marched against her with an army vast and cruel. On the battlefield, their forces clashed. Dust rose, drums shook the earth, and screams filled the sky. At the heart of the chaos, Amina rode forward to face the warlord himself. He sneered, towering in spiked armor. "You are but a woman," he spat. "And yet it is I who will end you," she replied. Their spears met in thunderous strikes. Sparks flew, steel rang, dust swirled. The duel raged, a storm within a storm. At last, Amina's spear found its mark. The warlord fell, his army scattering in terror. The field fell silent, save for the chants of her soldiers. "Amina! Amina!" Her victory was complete. Her legend, undeniable. Among the captives taken after her battles was a commander, fierce and proud. He expected death. Instead, Amina studied him. "Kneel before me," she commanded. He knelt, chains heavy on his wrists. "Why do you not beg for your life?" she asked. "Because I am a warrior," he replied. "And warriors do not beg." Amina's gaze softened. She raised her hand. "Then serve me and live." Shock crossed his face. Mercy was not what he expected. From that day on, he fought for Zazzau, his loyalty born not of fear, but of respect. Even her enemies could not resist the fire of Queen Amina's spirit. Years passed, and Amina's reign stretched long. Her body grew older, her braids streaked with gray, yet her fire never dimmed. From the walls of Zazzau, she looked out upon the land she had united. Villages thrived, markets bustled, walls stood strong. Before the people gathered below, she raised her spear. Her voice rang across the plains. "Walls will crumble, kingdoms will fall, but courage, courage will never die." The crowd roared her name, voices rising like thunder. For in that moment, they knew their queen was more than mortal. She was courage made flesh. She was Zazzau itself. In her final days, Queen Amina gave her people a last blessing. "I give you my walls, my victories, my name. Guard them well, for I am dust, but my courage lives in you." When she passed, the land mourned, but her story did not end. Centuries have come and gone. The walls she built still stand in the city that bears her sister's name, Zaria. The songs of the griots still carry her memory, and the spirit of Queen Amina still rides across the plains, a flame that will never die. For she was more than a queen, more than a conqueror. She was a warrior, a leader, a legend. Queen Amina of Zazzau, the warrior queen. And that was the story of Queen Amina of Zazzau. Do not forget to subscribe for more stories of courage, history, and legend.